It is amazing how thousands of years can pass, and yet human nature remains unchanged. Those in positions of power continue to implement tactics to control the people and bend their efforts to their will. 1,000 years ago, humanity was told by those in power that they were in power at the will of God, and so they must carry out their will. 1,000 years later, and we are told by those in power that God does not exist and that we should place our faith in the state and their leadership, in essence a pseudo-religion. This is why the question of God must go beyond the study of any kind of religion that could be used as a means of control, and that because of this, we need to be vigilant against manipulation by those in power. For example, science at universities, think tanks, and independent organizations is almost all funded either publicly or privately through grants. Naturally, those providing the grants generally have a goal or outcome the science would hopefully support. If the support does not come, funding is stopped. This does not mean the conclusions are always false. It only means that when searching for answers, the seeker should be very aware of the potential bias. This is why we must at least review the evidence that believers put forward in an effort to help us make up our own minds. We have discussed the God-shaped hole, which believers say is that inner feeling in us all that there is something more or something missing, and that missing piece is God. We have discussed the relationship of God and science, and how science itself makes the case that we cannot dismiss the search for God and declare the ultimate question answered, as there is simply not sufficient evidence to do so. We have further discussed how not only does the complexity of creation infer God before creation, but that there is also rational logic behind that point of view. We have even reviewed the laws of physics and how they break down before the Big Bang and not only fail when it comes to proving God does not exist, but actually hints at his existence. Lastly, we have discussed near-death experiences where millions of people describe events and perspectives that go far beyond the logic of things that are possible in our current reality. Taken together, we have found that it is false to conclude that science has proven no God. In fact, at the very least, science appears to lean in favor of God as it continues to collect more data. With this in mind, it is fascinating and also a bit disturbing to find not only that the assumption that science has disproved God is incorrect, but also that this belief is being pushed in such a universal way. One could say that it appears that people in positions of power are pushing society into making conclusions that have little actual support, or even worse, making conclusions based only on the evidence that supports their current goals. Put another way, with such little evidence to prove there is no God, there appears to be an obvious attempt to mislead citizens in unsupported directions. Could there be a reason that there are people in power that do not want the belief in God to flourish? We will address this in our next discussion, Proofs of God Why They Don't Want You to Believe in God. For further and more in-depth discussions on this series and related topics, please visit Aware CareShare.